Good morning and welcome to the Working Nation 2023 Focus Show. My name is Glenn Rashipura. Joining me in studio today will be Jo-Marie Dati, the Editorial Coordinator of the Working Nation Focus. We'll also be joined by Monique Cloete, MD of Liberty, as our special guest. And we'll be talking all things marketing with our Marketing Coordinator, Lita Angoa. Do stay tuned. I'm joined by Jo-Marie Dati, the Editorial Coordinator of the Working Nation Focus 2023. Good morning, how are you doing?
Good morning, Glenora. I'm perfectly fine, thank you. Hopefully you are too, you certainly look it.
Thank you. Well, getting into this month's Focus edition, can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yes, of course. The Working Nation Focus edition we've had for the past couple of years, and the idea of the publication is that we look at Namibia post-recession and post-pandemic from the angle of how can we stimulate job creation going forward, which are the sectors that are most likely to present opportunities for job creation, and also to sort of give an overview of what's been happening in the economy over the past year. Now in this year's edition, I've chosen to look especially at the mining side of things because there's a lot of buzz around the potential of new mining opportunities in Namibia, specifically oil and gas, but also green hydrogen, yes. And of course our rare earths, especially lithium, etc., which of course also plays a major role in the whole green energy stream. But we've also looked at tourism, although tourism isn't such a big contributor to the gross domestic product. It is a huge employer in the country. And then we've taken a look at construction, construction in a very, very bad space since the recession, which started in 2016. And we wanted to have a look and see what are the opportunities in construction, what are the major obstacles, because construction is one of those sectors that can provide a lot of jobs very quickly.
Absolutely.
So that is basically what we focused on in this year's Working Nation.
Also, can we get into the focus editions themselves? So they come out monthly, and you said each month you try to focus on something. And I know this month is a Working Nation, and last month was something else, and so forth. How do you go about choosing the themes or the topics for each month? And how do you guys arrive as a team to which one is the most important for which month?
Well, luckily in this scenario, I only work with the Working Nation Focus supplement. It's part of this series, as you said. So what we do is we take experts from our journalists team, the experts in their various fields. Like, for instance, with mining, you'll have the Algetu Craig, which is a top expert on that. We have later in the year, we've got our medical supplement, which is a huge favorite for years already. So especially our marketing team, which you'll talk to a bit later, they sit with Exco and they decide which focus edition would be best suited when. In the case of Working Nation, that traditionally used to be our budget supplement. So it was timed fairly quickly after the budget was tabled, but a few years ago we've decided to rather turn it into a Working Nation to see how government and the private sector can sort of come together and stimulate the economy. So it's quite a bit after the budget, but it's sort of still in that time frame.
I see. Now, as I understand that the importance for focus editions, because we are having important discussions, is it important that we feature only private, or should it be private sectors and also the government? What's your take on that?
Well, when it comes to economic matters, which is more my field, I'd rather not venture into medical, etc., etc. But when it comes to the economy, very much so. Now more than ever, it is of crucial importance that the government and the private sector take hands to boost and spur the economic recovery. The problem is that for many, many years, government was sort of seen as the prime driver of, economic development and spending, etc., in the country, which is not a very healthy situation. Post-recession, post-pandemic, government simply does not have that money anymore. So it's very important that the private sector comes in and drives the economy, and that government sort of takes the role as the enabler of economic development in terms of policy, in terms of regulations, etc. Let the private sector drive, let government enable. But then, that being said, it is extremely important that when government move into a policy, more focus on policy and regulations, that those policies and regulations are extremely business friendly. Government should not regulate the economy or interfere in the economy. What they have to do is to allow private sector and foreign investors, etc., to come in, do business, and develop the economy.
Yes, I totally agree with that. Would you also say that with the focus editions, we can encourage the private sector and the government to, sort of partake in discussions on how to better the economy in terms of the policies, as you mentioned, and so forth?
Very much so. The focus editions, I think, sort of tells the story behind the story, whereas your newspapers, etc., they are very hard news orientated. When we move back to the focus editions, that gives scope for more in-depth. You can have a look at what are the burning issues, what are possible solutions. You get the private sector coming in saying, look, we think it should be handled like this. Government coming in and saying, this is what we are doing, this is the way we are thinking, and hopefully the focus editions in that way plays a part in enabling Namibia's economic recovery.
Thank you so much. After the break, Jo Marie Dade will be speaking to Monique Cloete, the MD of Liberty. Do stay tuned.
A focus edition like Working Nation will not be possible without the support of sponsors and clients. And from our side, I'd like to thank all of you who've made this publication possible, and especially Liberty Life Namibia, Monique Cloete, MD of Liberty. Thank you very much for once again being part of this project and for joining us in the studio today.
Thank you very much for having me, Joe. I really appreciate the invitation.
Monique, you guys have a keen finger on the pulse of Namibia's economy. What is the state of the economy at the moment?
So, Joe, what we are seeing is quite a robust, well, not robust is the wrong word, but we are seeing a strong recovery and quite a sustained recovery starting to come through. So real GDP growth was at roughly 4.5% in 2022. The expectation is 3% in 2023, and then being tempered a little bit to 2.9% subsequent to that. I think if we compare Namibia to its southern counterpart, South Africa is very excited about a 1.4% growth. So I think Namibia is definitely, we're seeing a lot better improvement in our GDP growth, mainly driven by the mining sector, particularly diamonds. So we are keenly watching the agriculture and construction sector to understand when we will start to see some of this generation of jobs. Mm-hmm. Because in the mining sector, it's a particular skill set that's probably being passed around a few employer groups. So we're keenly watching the construction sector, which is still not doing too well, but something that we're keeping an eye on.
What are the opportunities? You've mentioned mining, but what gives Namibia the competitive edge at the moment to lure investment, to sort of, get stuck in, create jobs, recover the economy?
So, Joe, if we look at the short term, it's probably the mining sector that will attract more people. I think the other thing that we've already seen is Namibia as a logistics hub. So we have seen other countries like Zambia, Zimbabwe, Botswana starting to purchase pieces of our Namibian harbour as a dry dock for their deliveries. So we're seeing Namibia start to become more of a hub for the rest of Africa, distribution into the rest of Africa. And then I think longer term, we have to look at the blue and green economies, where there's really potential long term for Namibia. So how do we use our ocean better for, be it electricity generation, supporting the economy, the fishing sector and so forth? How do we use our resources, our natural resources, to really drive the economy? And then obviously green hydrogen is a big player for Namibia. So helping Namibia become an energy powerhouse over the long term, I think that's really where we can see benefit for the nation. But looking at the shorter term, definitely it's the mining sector, and then more of the logistics, which was also a goal for Namibia in the Harambee project.
Precisely. We have all these plans, we have all this potential. What do we need to do to make sure these ideas realize? What are the major stumbling blocks for Namibia at the moment?
So, Joe, I think what we definitely need to do is attract skills. So government's already working on that. There are agreements in place with certain countries already to try and attract those skills to help us with the skill set that we don't have in the country. I think some of the shorter term things we have to consider is where our inflation rate sits at the moment. So we're sitting at about 5.3%. Or that's the expectation for 2023. We did see it pick up in December and January. So we're expecting it to temper a little bit and then a little bit lower in 2024. I think the top of the have we seen the top of the interest rate cycle is another question, because there are some economists that are expecting another 50 basis point hike somewhere in 2023. So those are things we've got to consider. The consumer's already under quite a bit of pressure. We see that in our industry on a daily basis. So there's a lot of pressure on the consumer, and these interest rate hikes are obviously driving quite a bit of that as well. So I think those are some of the things we've got to think about. How do we deal with this? And as individuals, how do we contribute as well in managing our finances better, looking at where we're spending on interest expenses that we could be reducing and so forth.
And you've mentioned your own industry just now. So if you kindly allow me, could you elaborate on that? Because it's always good to see, you have all these economic developments, but how does it play out in practice? You've said that you see that interest rates, inflation, etc., sort of they are impacting on your particular industry.
Yes. So Joe, for us, we work in a lot of the retail sector, so we see the impact on the individual. So high interest rates means lower disposable income, and some of the first things that we work in long-term insurance. So it's not a tangible product because it's something that only happens when I come to pass. It's not something that I can see the impact on today. So it's one of the first things that I let go. And we find that people are lapsing policies that they've had in place for a number of years because they simply can't afford it. And it's something that we have to, that we're obviously doing a lot of work to talk to customers about, to say, look, but let's see if we can just reduce it rather than foregoing all of this. Let's see if we can reduce it and you can increase it later again once it becomes more affordable. But that's really where we're seeing it. If we look at sort of the level of lapses happening, 97%, because we talk to each of these customers, 97% of them tell us we just can't afford it.
Many challenges still facing the Namibian economy, but indeed, hopefully, a light at the end of the tunnel. Monique, thank you very much for joining us, and once again, thank you for your support.
Thank you very much, Joe.
Joining me now is Lita Angua, the Marketing Coordinator of the Working Nation Focus 2023 edition. Good morning, and how are you doing?
Hi, good day. Hi, Glenora. How are you?
I'm doing very well. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the clients that were featured in this edition?
So all the clients that were featured in this edition are mostly the companies who are the pillars of the business community, and those are all our esteemed B7 clients. Those are the Liberty Life, First National Bank, Standard Bank, Bank Windhoek, Alexander Forbes, PwC. Yes, those are the clients we focused on.
Awesome. It's good that it's a long list.
It is.
Well, why is it so important that companies are featured in focus editions?
Vastly why companies are focused are included in our focus editions is because the focus edition is a series of focuses. Let me start off like that. It's a series of focuses, and the Working Nation is just one of the focus editions that we have. And all our focus editions focus on a specific topic. So it gives companies an input to give to give their input on what they believe and understand on the topic at hand in the focus edition. So it gives companies opportunities to come out there and showcase what they believe in and how they overtake the topic at hand at the time.
I see.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today morning.
Thank you so much, Glenora.
And that's it from us. Thank you for coming in and tuning in and watching our Focus Edition show. From me, Glenora Shipura, until next time.